So hello and welcome to this afternoon session. So we're doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be doing a little bit of breath work with Karen and Bruce. Welcome Karen and Bruce to start the session, and then we'll move into a meditation, a bit of an expression session, and a discussion on today's theme. Given it's Easter Sunday, we'll be talking about the true meaning of crucifixion. But first of all, just some breath work. So I'm just going to talk briefly about what breath work is and what it does in preparation. And then Karen and Bruce, I'll just guide you through some breathwork fundamentals, really a fundamental breathing technique that is the foundation, I believe, of all breathwork. So a lot of people sort of wonder, well, why breathwork? Why breathe? Surely I just breathe anyway. So why put any attention into it? Why train yourself how to do what comes naturally? Well, the answer is a lot of people really don't breathe particularly well. When we come out of the womb as babies, we do have a natural breathing pattern, and that often gets disrupted and disturbed and distorted, as with many things in our lives. And so a lot of people have got into bad breathing habits. They're breathing quite shallowly often into their top half of their lungs. A lot of people breathe through their mouth. And most people breathe through their mouths when they exercise. I'll talk about that a bit later. And so they're not using their full lung capacity, and they're not breathing optimally. And breathing also is what's the most foundational thing you do to keep your body alive. Without breathing, you simply wouldn't stay alive. Although that's not entirely true, but I digress. I'll get to that maybe a bit later. So this is about reconnecting with the most basic thing that you do to keep yourself alive, and it's the very source of life, which is why in the ancient languages like ancient Greek and Latin and many other ancient languages from around the world, the word for breath and the word for life are really the same. So pneuma in Greek means breath, but it also means spirit or life. The same for spiritus, which is the word for breath and life in Latin. And those now form the inspiration as the root of spiritus, the Latin. When we say I'm inspired, most people don't think, well, I'm full of air, I'm breathing. They think, well, I'm inspired with the spirit, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling positive, and so on. So it's in the words, because the ancients really realized that there was a life force essence that you would inhale. You would breathe this in when you breathe in deeply. So that's the reason, if you're not breathing properly, you're actually cutting yourself off from this life force essence. That's been called many things, again, in different traditions and cultures. In the East, it's called prana. By the Indian tradition, it's Sanskrit, chi in China, ki in Japan. So breath is really a way of tapping into that life force essence and inhaling it, breathing it in to not just your body, but your whole mental, energetic system. The body is just at the very top layer. It's the thing that we can see, but actually there's an entire energy system, and you have an energy field. This is what the ancients knew as well. And through a lot of practice and self-discovery, they found out that breath was really a pretty foundational technique for raising their life energy. When they raised their life energy, they would have certain interesting and often ecstatic experiences, and this is what some people then dedicated their lives to doing. And they were called the mystics, the yogis, the gurus and so on, who accessed a different dimension of consciousness, really. And breath was one of the foundations. So prana, pranayama, is really the science of breath control. And that's one of the 8 limbs of yoga, which is probably the world's most ancient formal tradition for spiritual growth and enlightenment. So it's embedded in there because these yogis understood that when you had control of your breath, you could start to control the mind. So this is another major reason to do it. When you learn how to control the breath, you learn how to control your mind much better. And going for mind control directly is tricky. So I ask you now, don't think of a pink elephant. What are you going to think of? Almost certainly you'll think of a pink elephant. So that just illustrates how the mind works. You say, don't do something. And then the monkey mind, this chatterbox mind, we call the ego, thinks of it. So that doesn't work too well. So again, what these ancient mystics and teachers found was that if they just paid attention to their breath, they gave the mind something else to focus on, the mind would quiet naturally. And there would be a kind of an emptiness of their normal thinking patterns. And the more they did that, actually the deeper they went into what is called a meditation state. So breathwork is a precursor to meditation. And a lot of people might say, well, what's the difference? Well, breathwork really is just a technique, something you actively do. Meditation is a state. But the two, in my view, are pretty synonymous, because if you're breathing nice, deep, slow, diaphragmatic breaths, you are going to go into a meditative state. It's almost inevitable, because breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system when you breathe properly. If you breathe nice, deep, slow breaths through your nose, there's this parasympathetic nervous system which helps you to relax. It's a relaxation response. You simply cannot feel stressed, feel fearful, feel panicked when you're breathing nice, deep, slow breaths through your nose. And I'll get you to just experience that, because this is an experiential class, not just theoretical. I'm just giving you a brief theoretical background. So Karen and Bruce, just want you to take 20 deep breaths through your mouth, because this activates the other system, the sympathetic nervous system, which activates what's called the fight or flight response in your body. So it stimulates the production of stress hormones like adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, which really juice your system up. They get you ready to either fight an apparent danger or flee. And that can be very useful if that is actually what you have to do. You need a sudden surge of energy, but 99.9% of the time in today's modern world, that's not the case. We just have some perceived threat, and then that system kicks in, and often our breathing becomes shallow. At the extreme, in a panic attack, I remember once watching a movie called As It Is in Heaven, and in that there was a scene where the priest went into a total panic attack, and he was breathing really fast through his mouth. And I thought that was really interesting, because that's what happens when you go into a fight or flight state. You tend to breathe through your mouth, and simultaneously breathing through your mouth will trigger that state if you breathe that way for even a couple of minutes. So that's what I want you to do now, just to test this out for yourself. Just take 20 deep breaths through your mouth. So just like that, keep that rhythm going, and just notice as you do that, how you're feeling. So what's happening mentally? Do you feel calm? Do you feel a little bit scattered, a little bit disturbed? How's your body feeling? And just keep doing that for another 10 breaths. And just observe as you do that, how that goes. So I'm going to ask you, once you've done that, Karen, if you can just unmute so you can give me a bit of feedback. So once you've done the 20 breaths, just Notice how you feel now. And yeah, how was that? Just give me some feedback.
And go first?
Go.
I thought it would calm me down. It didn't really.
Yeah. Did you feel a little bit kind of disturbed? You a little bit kind of lightheaded?
No, it felt like I was about to start rushing somewhere.
Okay, interesting. And Bruce?
Yeah, I felt a little bit lightheaded. Otherwise, I could lie down and sleep. But that's just breathing deeply anyway.
Oh, okay. So, that's interesting, because just 20 breaths, breathing that way, it starts to activate the sympathetic nervous system. And Zakaran, you said you felt a little bit rushed. Bruce, a little bit lightheaded, because you're taking a lot of oxygen. But too much oxygen is not a good thing, right? You actually hyperventilate. And the system goes into this sympathetic nervous system mode, which is otherwise known as the fight or flight response. So that's why you felt like you were kind of a bit rushed. All right, so that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to be breathing shallowly through your mouth like that. And most people don't normally breathe that way. But if they're feeling stressed, if they're going into a panic attack, often that kind of breathing starts to happen, because it goes with the fight or flight response mode. So fortunately, there's an alternative. And this is the correct way of breathing that I'm going to show you. So again, sitting cross-legged, sit with your back straight. It's important to keep your back straight in this kind of thing, because you're raising the energy. And just going to do some deep diaphragmatic breathing. So that's always through the nose. And make sure you're breathing through your nose. Put one hand on your stomach and take a nice deep breath in through the nose. And notice as you do that the stomach should push out. There's a raising up of the stomach and then of the chest. And then it's just slower. So over about maybe 5 or 6 seconds, you get to the maximal point of the inhale. You pause there briefly, just for a few seconds. Notice that there's some stillness arising in you. And one of the techniques of breath work, which we'll go into maybe in subsequent sessions, is breath holding. So you've got a little experience of that. And now exhale out the nose. The airflow out of the nostrils. And you should notice that the stomach is just gently sucking back in again. There's a natural depression when you breathe out through your nose. Chest and the stomach suck back in. Again, pause at the bottom of the exhale. And then repeat the cycle. So breathing in again. And make sure the belly is pushing out. This is also called belly breathing. The reason is your diaphragm is expanding, and the diaphragm pushes the stomach out. So it's almost as though you're breathing air into that belly, although it's coming in via the nose. And then it moves into the chest. And a nice progression. I sometimes like to think of it as a 3-phase. So it's the stomach, the chest, and then almost into the head. You pause at the top of the inhale. Have a little smile. And notice that maybe there's a little bit of peace arising in these little gaps between breaths. You can really come into the present moment. This is also what the yogis and the mystics noticed, that when they breathed, they just brought their attention completely into the present moment, and all the scattered thoughts just kind of disappeared. And then you exhale. And this time, just make a little sighing sound in the back of your throat. You keep your mouth closed, let the air flow out of your nostrils, and you just sigh it all out. So just contracting the throat. It's as though you're fogging sunglasses, but you keep your mouth closed. And you feel the chest and the stomach just sucking back in. That's called the Ujjayi breath in in yoga. So it's just a sighing sound. What that does is just helps you to expel a little bit more of the air out. It also creates a nice soothing sound, a bit like the ocean. So the breath is then being used just by paying attention to the sound of the breath. You are paying attention to something else. And that is another what's called a mantra in yoga, which keeps your attention in the present moment. So breathing in again. Nice deep breath in. Notice the stomach rising, the chest rising, the subtle flow of air into the nostrils. Just pause at the top of the inhale. For a few seconds, smile. Really notice that your mind is clearing. There's really no thought going on. If there are thoughts, then just notice them, and as you exhale, again make that sighing sound. Just have a sense of letting them go, breath. So the word for exhale in Greek and forgiveness are the same, because there's this natural tendency to let go of something with the exhale. So you can use the breath to help you to let go of whatever you're holding on to, which is what I generally use it for in meditations, and that have a more spiritual nature, where you're trying to become aware of negative thoughts and emotions and then let them go. And so then breathe in again at the bottom of the exhale. And just notice in the gaps between breaths, in the gap between inhale and exhale, you notice a little bit of stillness arising, a little bit of peace. And then you exhale gently out, the bottom of the exhale, you notice a bit of stillness and peace. Just for that few seconds, smile, that can help. And then move smoothly into the next inhale. So just do that for another 10 times in your own time. Just nice, deep, slow, rhythmical breaths. Just pause for a few seconds at the top of the inhale. Smile. And then exhale. Make sure you're making that little sighing sound. That helps you expel all the last remaining air out. So you're completely empty. It creates a vacuum. And in the presence of a vacuum, the air then wants to rush in on the next inhale. So just move smoothly. You get into a nice kind of rhythm and cycle. Just pay 100% attention to the breath. If you notice any thoughts coming in, just gently let them go with each exhale. You just imagine they're like clouds drifting by. They have no power to really obscure the sky, which is this clear, open, empty awareness. So you exhale and just let that go. And just have a sense of sinking into that awareness. Into this empty, open, spacious awareness. With each breath, you're just going a little bit deeper. And again, notice how you're feeling. Just observe your state of mind, observe your body. What's going on mentally, emotionally, physically. Noticing all these things. Because awareness is the first stage of any kind of spiritual practice. If you don't have awareness of your thoughts and emotions, then you can't do anything with it, and they just control you. So as I said earlier, breath control, breath awareness leads to awareness of your mind, or control of your mind. It's the first stage, which is why pranayama, breath control, the yogic tradition was one of the foundations. And this is really what starts a process of meditation. So just keep doing that nice, deep, slow, rhythmical breaths. You can keep one hand on your stomach to notice the stomach rising, the chest rising. And just pay attention to all the subtle sensations of your breath. So rise of the stomach and the chest, the air flowing into your nostrils. Smile at the top of the inhale. Notice that calm, empty, spacious awareness in the gap between breaths. You exhale, just make that sighing sound, Ujjayi sound in the back of your throat. Air flows out of your nostrils. Chest and the stomach just suck back in. Notice that happening. Smile at the bottom of the exhale. Notice that same awareness, just a nice, calm, empty, open, spacious awareness opening up. Smile again, repeat the cycle. And just do that for another few breaths. I don't know how many you've done. So maybe do another 5 breaths in your own time. Find a nice rhythm. Really, it's about getting into your own breathing rhythm. So everything just feels really nice and easy and smooth. And this starts to introduce you to the idea of flow. Experientially. So flow is the idea that you're just in flow with life. There's not a lot of thoughts and emotions going on. There's not any resistance to the present moment. You're just peaceful, calm, happy in the moment. But you can be very effective in that state when you're having to do stuff. The moment you're not, you're just sitting and breathing. So the idea of it is that flowing breath leads to more flow in your life. So the more you practice this kind of a technique, the more you'll find that sense of ease, of calm, peace, just as an underlying state in your life, and you carry that with you in whatever you're doing. So if you've done those 5 breaths, you can just carry on breathing that way. You can open your eyes and your eyes are closed. So just carry on in that nice deep rhythmical pattern of breathing throughout this session, because it's just the underlying. So this is what I call a foundational practice. So if you can get this right, it's foundational to so many other things, to spiritual practice, to meditation, to greater awareness in your life, to flow in your life. So it's really worth making sure that you know how to do it and that you're breathing this way regularly. So this should be your normal default mode of breathing. Nice deep diaphragmatic breaths. You notice the stomach rising, the chest rising. And if that's going on, it's just a background process that's happening automatically. You've got a really good foundation. A lot of people are not doing that. And so if they're not, that starts to bring all kinds of mental, emotional, and physical problems into play. If you breathe shallowly for years and years, you start to get very contracted and constricted in your chest, and it actually becomes difficult to get the air into the deeper parts of your lungs, which then restricts your intake of oxygen. So without enough oxygen, often the cells go into oxygen starvation, and when there's not enough oxygen in cells, that's when they get sick. That's when things like cancer manifest. So a lot of people's problems, I believe, come from improper breathing. That's the start, and then it gets compounded by many other things. And the improper breathing affects them, their thoughts and their emotions, and then they tend to think more negatively. They're not as relaxed. So it's a very foundational system. If you can get this right, it starts to lay a really good foundation for anything that you're doing in life. Whatever you're doing, you carry your breath with you. It's a great foundation for meditation, for spiritual practice. So it's really worth just paying a little bit of attention to something that you've taken for granted your entire life. That's the irony of it. This amazing tool is under your nose, literally. And most people just don't pay any attention to it. They just completely overlooking it or ignoring it. So it's a secret in plain sight, breath control. So hopefully this little session has given you a little insight into just how powerful the breath is and how you can just start using it in your daily life. And what I showed you there, that a little 5 minutes of deep breathing through your nose, that's a little mini meditation. You could do that a couple of times a day. You could do that for a minute or two whenever you're feeling stressed. Just sitting quietly and breathing nice deep slow breaths is going to calm you down, and it's going to bring your mind into a state of more present moment awareness. And in that state, you are going to be more effective in whatever you're doing. So my advice is if you find yourself freaking out about something, you find yourself getting very stressed, that instead of trying to deal with the situation in that upset state, you just take a time out. I call it a breath break, and you just breathe for a few minutes. Just nice, deep, slow breaths. In the Art of Letting Go program, we add in some mind training. So once you've got that the breathing going on, you can then introduce a little bit of thinking, a little bit of not really affirmations, but really little truth sayings that come from A Course in Miracles, and that can help you further to just let go of whatever negativity arose. So, as I said, it's a very foundational practice that I incorporate into all my breath breaks, meditations, which is why it's worth going back to the fundamentals, to the foundations, which we've done in this session, and just really making sure that system is working, that you know how to do that, and that's happening as a foundational system, as a baseline process on which you can then build. Then meditation, this is what I showed you as well, is a foundational meditation practice. So in the Buddhist teaching, breath watching is the way they teach meditation. It's called Vipassana. And just sitting and watching your breath like you did for 5 minutes for many hours is the fundamental meditation practice of advanced Buddhist practitioners, just breath watching. So although it's a very simple technique, it's very powerful. The deeper you go into it, the more you do it, the more you'll find that you come into a different kind of awareness. There's a spiritual awareness that inevitably comes when you do that. So you can do that for hours if you wanted to, but even 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day is going to start to help you. If you do, let's say, 20 minutes a day in 2 sessions of that breath watching practice, that is going to change your life over time. It will introduce subtle changes in your consciousness and your awareness, because consciousness is really the foundation of our lives. Who would we be without consciousness? There would be no life at all. Now everything is experienced in a different state of consciousness, and that's why this is actually a life-changing skill and practice. So I'm going to open it up for some questions. Karen and Bruce, any questions on anything?
I have no questions. Jono, you?
Questions?
No, I'm good. I mean, just the experience of doing it is self-explanatory.
Yeah, well said. I mean, that's exactly it. You know, you can talk about breath work for ages, but it's actually the doing of it. It's an experiential practice, and presumably you both felt more peaceful and calmer than in the first phase of the breath, where you were breathing through your mouth.
100%.
So you just notice, so it becomes obvious. Well, this works. This helps me to be more peaceful and calm. So why wouldn't I use this when I need to calm down, even if I'm feeling pretty calm? Just doing a meditation in that state might take you deeper into states, that are called spiritual. Spiritual awareness starts to arise, and the breath is just a technique to help you experience something deeper. So it's a portal. It's a foundational practice. It's a portal into higher states of consciousness. It's great for your health and well-being. I've been doing meditation and breath work for 20 years. 22 years now. I started meditation, breath work for about 11 or 12. And it absolutely makes a difference. It changes your biochemistry. You start to slow down the aging process. I'm 48, and you know, most people say I don't look 48. I look like I'm in my mid-30s, and that's just because I've done these practices regularly. So it's nothing special. So there are other things going on as well, like eating and exercise and so on. But just by doing these very simple practices regularly, that's what it's really about, is repetition, just incorporating these into your daily life. So a lot of people say, well, I don't have time. Okay, well, you know, if you don't have time to do things like conscious breathing, things that are going to really help your health and well-being, at some point you're probably gonna have to make time for doctors and medical bills and stuff, because if you're not taking care of the very foundation, at some point that's probably going to break down. And that's often what happens to people. You know, in their youth, they like take it for granted. They don't do things that are really helping their health and well-being. And then later on in life, in the 40s and 50s, things start to break down, and they start having to spend increasing amounts of time and money on just trying to maintain their physical health and well-being, and that's very expensive. It costs them time, productive time that could be doing many other things, and money. If you start getting into drugs, which is what the medical industry wants you to do, then you know, it ends up costing a fortune, and it's very deleterious to your health. Taking multiple drugs, which often have side effects when they combine, is not a recipe for true health and well-being at all. And just some simple things like breath work, you know, can actually undo all that. Even if you're watching this in a recording and you know you're already experiencing health problems, and that's kind of where you're at, that can be reversed just by doing conscious breath work like this regularly. You can really start to improve your health and well-being. You can start to reverse a lot of the damage that might have been done pretty quickly, just by giving the body enough oxygen and in the right way. So I just want to talk a little bit about the actual breathing technique. So when you're breathing through your nose, you filter the air through your nostrils. So immediately filtering out anything in the air that needs to be filtered out. There's inevitably pollutants, dust, and we're living in a city, so there's going to be levels of carbon monoxide, sulfur, other things that you don't really want to be breathing in. So your nostrils filter that out. It was interesting when I was in London. If you go into London for a day and then blow your nose at the end of the day, then all this black snot coming out. Pardon my expression, but it just shows you what's being filtered, isn't it? All that stuff, instead of going straight into your lungs, if you're breathing through your mouth, that's now being filtered out. So the air gets cleaned. It goes into kind of a spiral, starts whirling down the back of your throat. And in that process, it picks up some life energy. So we know in nature that spirals create a life energy, a vortex energy, which is why water that's been flowing in a stream, it's got all these flow forms going, is much more energized than water that's come in a pipe. It's gone through these geometrical pipe structures. So it picks up energy, and it gets warmed up as well. So it gets warmed up to body temperature in that journey from the nostrils down the throat into the lungs. By the time it hits the lungs, a couple of seconds later, it's generally going to be at body temperature. Obviously, depending on how cold the air is. You'll know, Bruce, from your exercising. If you're exercising on a very cold winter's morning and you breathe through your mouth, it burns your lungs, doesn't it?
Yep.
That's because the air is at a different temperature, and the lungs don't like that particularly well. And so the efficiency of the oxygen absorption is not going to be nearly as great as if you breathe through your nose. So breathing through your nose, you'll never have that. By the way, do you breathe through your nose or through your mouth when you exercise?
I can't say I've ever paid too much attention, but probably more through my mouth.
Yeah, well, that's common. That's what most people do, because it seems like you can't get enough air in through your nose, and so once you start, upping your pulse rate and the activity level goes higher than, say, a walk, then suddenly, most people default to that mouth breathing, because you can get a greater volume of air in through your mouth. So kind of accept that when you do that, as we just demonstrated, as you experienced, then you're not actually using your full lung capacity. You're breathing quite shallowly, aren't you? Sort of into the top. So just do a couple of breaths like that again, and just notice what happens. You can't really engage the diaphragm with mouth breathing, can you?
No, it's all in your chest.
All in your chest, exactly. So now take a nice deep breath through the nose, and you push the stomach out, so that's engaging the diaphragm. And you notice the difference. The air is going much deeper, isn't it? It's going into the deeper parts of your lungs. So what's happening with mouth breathing, particularly in exercise, is you're breathing in a large volume of air, but the absorption of that air and of the oxygen is compromised. It's not you're not using your full lung capacity. It's not going into the deeper parts of your lungs, where there are all these little alveoli things that have receptors for the oxygen. It absorbs it into the bloodstream. And so more is not necessarily better, right? Breathing in a greater quantity of air doesn't mean that's going to be a more effective breathing technique. In fact, the opposite, because it's the absorption of the oxygen. So when you breathe deeply in through your diaphragm, you're now engaging your full lung capacity. So you're engaging all of those little alveoli things, which now, and the air is been warmed and cleaned, they can now absorb that oxygen much more effectively. And so your oxygen absorption per breath goes way up when you do diaphragmatic breathing, which means that it's a much more effective way of breathing. And for performance purposes, you don't need to breathe as much. Instead of breathing at a rate of, say, 40 or 50 breaths a minute, which most people are doing, if you're running quite fast, that's probably what you're going to be doing if you're breathing through your mouth. You breathe through your nose, shouldn't need to breathe more than 12 to 14 breaths a minute. So every 2 or 3 seconds, maybe every 4 seconds, you're taking a breath. So and then that Ujjayi technique I showed you, that can be used really easily while you're exercising, just to give it a little bit of an enhancement. So by making that sighing sound, you contract the diaphragm in, and you help all the air to get expelled out, which creates a vacuum. So that then on the next inhale, the air wants to rush into a vacuum. So that just gives a little bit more efficiency. So making that Ujjayi sound, I'd really recommend. And just breathing in that nice, deep, slow rhythm you can actually do this at high intensity. And I know that because I've done it for many years. When I was a professional squash player 20 odd years ago, I got this book called Body, Mind and Sport, written by a guy called John Douillard. And in it, he was talking about this mode of breathing, this diaphragmatic breathing, but using that for high intensity exercise. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I'm going to explore this possibility. And it took me a while to train it. It took me about 3 or 4 months to really crack it. But after 3 or 4 months of doing a lot of this deep diaphragmatic breathing at fairly low intensity, I was doing slow runs and cycles and so on. I was able to pick up the intensity and start doing it in 400-meter sprints. And then I took it into actually playing squash, which the first time I did, I felt like I was about to die, because I was like, I can't breathe. And I really wanted to breathe through my mouth. But I forced myself to breathe through my nose. And I kind of broke through. I never looked back. After that, I could just do it naturally. And that really did change my squash career. Instead of going into the fight or flight response mode, which would happen quite often, especially in really intense matches. Be like, your body's not getting enough oxygen. You go into an anaerobic zone, which is where you don't have enough oxygen body starts to burn sugar, which then creates lactic acid. So that's going to affect your performance the next day. So you get stiff and sore. Instead of that, I just never went into that mode again. I was in an aerobic mode, whatever I was doing, even in the most intense squash game. I would still be breathing through my nose, and most importantly, I'd be mentally calm and composed. So instead of freaking out and in that fight or flight response mode, where really your body, your mind is just saying, stop. This is nuts. You need to run away from this and just rest, because this is like a life-threatening situation. You don't have enough oxygen. I was calm. I was composed, and that's hugely valuable in any sport, especially something like squash, where you need to be playing shots. You need to be in a right zone to play the right shots, and so I was able to stay much more composed, and obviously that improved my game tremendously. So it really did change my career, and most importantly, I enjoyed it. It wasn't just about the performance, which was definitely improved. I enjoyed it much more. It was a much more enjoyable process than going off, every time, not every time, but I'm going onto the court and I feel like I'm dying because I don't have enough oxygen. Suddenly it was like, oh, actually, no, it's fine. I can play this game at a high level, and I can actually enjoy it rather than getting so stressed out. And I think it extended my career as well, because you're not putting as much oxidative stress on your body. If you're breathing this way, you actually over breathing. It's called hyperventilation. It brings in too much oxygen, and when the balance of carbon dioxide and nitric oxide and carbon dioxide and oxygen is out, then your system doesn't work too well. So that's what happens when you hyperventilate. It's not a good over-breathing. Too much oxygen is not a good state to perform in. You need to have the right balance of oxygen, nitric oxide, carbon dioxide in your bloodstream, and that keeps things in equilibrium. That's the optimal state. So when you breathe through your nose, you just can't overbreathe. You won't ever have too much oxygen. You'll have the right balance of carbon dioxide, nitric oxide, and oxygen, and be in an optimal performance state. So that's a little bit of background, especially for you, Bruce. I know you're into exercise. That's going to help you if you can just breathe. Nice deep slow breaths.
Rub that in.
It will take time. You're not just going to go straight and do a run tomorrow and go, okay, I'm just going to breathe through my nose at the same intensity, because you're not used to it. Your system's got to adapt to this. So what I would do is then do it slowly. When I started, I just did these slow runs. Now, a part of me was like, well, what am I doing here? Am I really getting any benefit? Because the traditional way of training is saying, no pain, no gain. You got to push into a certain zone. You got to be above sort of 150, 160 pulse rate in the aerobic zone to get any benefit. That's conventional kind of training wisdom. And this was saying, no, actually just drop below that. Keep your pulse rate between 130 and 140 beats a minute. So if you use a pulse rate monitor, you can monitor it, because below 140, you'll be able to sustain the nasal breathing. If you go above that, you'll probably feel like you're getting short of breath, and you'll need to default to mouth breathing. So this is about teaching your body and your whole system really to breathe more efficiently. It's about doing more with less effort, which I intuitively I like that. That was a very elegant solution. It's like, use things more efficiently rather than a sort of inefficient way of breathing. So you might need to just cut your performance level a bit. And that's an interesting psychological thing to have to do as well, because it's like, well, no pain, no gain. I've got to perform. Okay, well, hang on. What's the real purpose of exercise? Are you doing it to perform, or are you doing it to enjoy it?
Yeah.
Sorry?
No. On the when you're in that nice comfort zone, it's practice it there. And when you're doing the odd hill sprint or something silly, then, but yeah, over time you'll be able to do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if you build this up slowly, you'll be able to breathe through your nose when you're doing high intensity stuff as well. But that'll take a few months. So what I'd advise is when you're going for your runs and cycles and whatever you're doing, you wear a pulse rate monitor. If you haven't got one, get one. They're fairly cheap.
No, I wear one anyway.
You wear one. I probably thought so. And just monitor it. You know, you'll raise your pulse rate over the first 5 minutes from about 100. So it's a gentle jog to about 130. And you're just breathing comfortably through your nose as you do that. And then keep it sort of 130, 135. Don't go over 140. And just breathing, focus on your breathing. Watch the breath, you know, make sure nice deep diaphragmatic breaths. You're doing the Ujjayi breath. You can count your breaths to start to see how many breaths you're doing in a minute. And a good rate is sort of 12 to 14 breaths a minute. And then notice how you're feeling while you're doing that, because you should feel quite different. You should feel that, you know, you're in that high, the runner's zone, they call it. The zone or the runner's high.
Yeah,
it's a really nice experience. It's just easy, it's effortless. You're really enjoying the process. And actually, research has shown that at that level, 130 to 140, you're getting all the benefits of exercise. You know, anaerobic training. You know, unless you're a serious athlete wanting to, you know, win gold medals and stuff, anaerobic training really isn't necessary for health and well-being benefits. You don't need to go there. If you want to,
130, 140, I can ride all day.
Yeah, at that 130 to 140 zone, you'll just be able to go for a long time. I mean,
yeah,
you don't really get tired. Your legs at some point might get a little bit tired. I'd go for these like 2-hour runs, and the legs would get a little bit fatigued, but I wasn't you know, aerobically stressed at all. So just try that. You know, you can go for as long as you want. Once you've done the warm-up phase, raise your heart rate. I would say generally, well, this is what John Douillard recommended, sort of 15 to 20 minutes to lead in to a performance phase. So you start off at a rate of like 100. That's just a gentle walk. You move into a jog. You get your heart rate gently up to 130 to 140 over about 15 minutes, and then you're nicely warmed up. Your system is nicely warmed up. Your lungs are warmed up. Then you know, if you wanted to, you could push a bit higher, but try and maintain the nasal breathing. So when I was doing the sprint training, I found that I could, even when I went higher than 140, I could still sustain the nasal breathing. But it took me about a couple of months of doing these sort of long, slow aerobic training to be able to do that, to sustain that. And now, yeah, I mean, as I said, for the last 20 odd years, I've breathed through my nose when I can do sprint training, I can play squash, I can, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter what the intensity is, I can still breathe through my nose. So you can train it. So, yeah, give it a go and you know, see how it goes. And give me feedback on in the next session if you're going to do another session.
Awesome.
So yeah, that was our little breathwork session for today.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, my pleasure. We can do more of this if you like. Zoom works quite well, so just let me know, and it would be interesting to get your feedback if you try this, see how it goes the next week, and maybe we can do a session there next week, Sunday, if you're on.
Okay. Yeah, we're doing it right tomorrow. I'll check it out.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, the old man standing up.
Oh, belly.
Thanks, Jono.
Okay. My pleasure.
So we're going to go on to our thingamajig. I'm just going to relocate, Jono.
Yes, no problem.
I'll go to the study
Okay.
now.
Yeah, so welcome to this meditation. I'll be guiding you through practicing today's workbook lessons. We're on to workbook lesson 57, which is a review lesson. So there's 5 previous lessons as part of it. And I'll also guide you through today's text reading from Course in Miracles text, which is section 3 of chapter 8, called The Holy Encounter. It's quite appropriate because I think we just had one. In fact, every encounter can be a holy encounter. So we'll hear more about what Jesus has to say about the holy encounter. So just prepare yourself, closing your eyes, sitting comfortably, feet shoulder width apart. You're sitting on a chair, cup your hands in your lap, keep your back straight, close your eyes. You can also sit cross-legged on the floor, you can sit upright in bed. Just make sure that you're comfortable, number 1, and that your back is straight, number 2. Close your eyes and start off by just taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So just breathing in. Noticing how the stomach rises, the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just clench the sphincter muscle. It's the muscle you use to contract the flow of urine or squeeze the last drops out. Just raise the energy up the spine with your breath. Feel like you're drawing it up into your heart center. And drawing it up into the crown of your head. Just pause at the top of the inhale. Smile. And just check in and scan your mind. So just noticing any thoughts and emotions going on there. Particularly anything that feels negative or limiting, contracted, constricting in any way. Notice the thoughts, notice emotions, and just apply any of today's ideas to help you to let those thoughts and feelings go. So I'm not the victim of the world I see as a great one. Feeling at all upset by anyone or anything, you are playing the victim of the world. I've invented the world I see. You made it all up. And so there's another way of looking at the world. Much lighter way, much freer way. So just breathe in some lightness. Imagine it's flowing into every pore of your body. It's light, every cell, every part of your mind. Just breathe this light, this peace in, and say, I could see peace instead of this, instead of what I now see. I could see peace. And you feel peace just arising in your mind, in your being. And then say, my mind is part of God's. My mind is part of love's. I am very holy. And you exhale out on the truth of that. And you exhale out your mouth. And imagine you just blowing away all of these dark thoughts and emotions like a black smoke out of your mouth. Blowing it away into the nothingness that it really is. From the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And then just come to rest in peace and stillness for a few moments at the bottom of the exhale. Smile. It's a little portal into eternity. Come into present moment awareness, into the now fully. well, there's eternal awareness. You start to become aware of something beyond time. There's a smile, breathe in again. Notice how the stomach rises, the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Squeeze the sphincter muscle, feel the life energy rising up the spine to your heart center. Breathe it into your heart. Pull the energy all the way up into the crown of your head. Pause at the top of the inhale. Smile. Okay, and just check in with your mind. Notice any thoughts going on. Hopefully a little bit more clarity, a little bit more openness, emptiness, and spacious awareness arising. Take another sip of air in just to go deeper into that. Again, if there are any thoughts, any emotions, just imagine they're like clouds blowing through your mind. I'm just going to let them all go with the breath. Maybe exhale. This time out through your nose. Keep your mouth closed. Sigh it all out. Just sighing all of this away. And the energy raised up into the crown, subsiding back down the front channel of your body. Just coming to rest in the lower stomach, in your groin. Pausing there at the bottom of the exhale. Smile. And then breathe in again. So just set the breath in motion. Nice, deep, slow, rhythmical diaphragmatic breathing. I talked about earlier. Just breathing in through the nose. You watch subtle sensations of the breath. Stomach rising, chest rising. Air flowing in through the nostrils. Clench the sphincter muscle. There's the energy rising up the spine. One hand in your heart center, that helps you. That's another little anchor into this present moment awareness. Smiles, another one. And then you exhale, sigh it all out. It's as though you're fogging sunglasses. It's the Ujjayi Breath I talked about earlier. Sigh it all out. That is a very restful sound. It sounds like a wave just sighing back into the ocean. The sound of your sighing, another mantra just to help your mind to relax, to focus completely on the present moment. And then the bottom of the exhale, just let it all go. Find some peace and stillness arising. And then you breathe in again. So just step back and watch the breath. This is the breath watching practice that I talked about. It's the basis of the Buddhist Vipassana meditation technique. Just watching the breath and all the subtle sensations of the breath. And letting that bring your mind completely into the present moment, into a very still, calm, receptive state. And in the state, I'm going to allow these words on Jesus, our master teacher, to just drop in and permeate into your awareness. So this section I'm going to read you is section 3 of chapter 8, which is called the Holy Encounter. So just listen with your heart. Keep one hand in your heart center to connect in your heart presence. Stay connected to it. You just want to feel into these words, feel the emotions. You start to feel the love, light, peace, joy that the words point to, then the words are doing their job. Intellectual understanding is secondary. In fact, it's a prerequisite for an experience of truth. So you can just experience that, then intellectual understanding becomes very secondary. It's not really even necessary. You have the direct experience, love and peace and joy. So just listen with your heart, keep watching your breath, and leave these words to keep you in this nice, still, calm, connected state of mind. So remind yourself, nowhere else to go, there's nothing else to do, there's nothing else to think about. In the next 20 minutes or so, just breathe, relax, be still, and allow these words just to drop into that stillness. If it helps you, can imagine they're like pebbles just dropping into a pond on a very still, calm, windless day. They just plop in and create very noticeable ripple effects because your mind is so still. And they sink into the depths of the pond, your subconscious mind, which is where they needed to undo this default thought system of the ego. So let's hear what Jesus, our master teacher, has to say about the holy encounter. He starts off by saying, "Glory to God in the highest." So you can change the word God to the word love. It's really referring to an eternal, unconditional, infinite loving presence. So glory to this loving presence in the highest. And to you, because he or it has so willed. Has so willed it. Glory to you. And breathe that glory in. It's a feeling of love, peace, happiness, underlying contentment. Ask and it shall be given you, because it has already been given you. Ask for light and learn that you are light. So just breathe in a beautiful golden or white light. Feel that. Imagine that flowing into every pore of your body, every cell, every muscle. Every fiber of your being is light. And that light translates into the experience of lightheartedness. The mind feels light and clear. No heaviness. There's an underlying peace. There's joy, just feeling happiness. You smile. You want understanding and enlightenment. You will learn it because your decision to learn it is the decision to listen to the teacher who knows of light and can therefore teach it to you. There is no limit on your learning because there is no limit on your mind. There's no limit to the light. There is no limit on his teaching. Jesus is referring to the Holy Spirit because he was created to teach. Understanding his function perfectly, he fulfills it perfectly. Because that is his joy and yours. So as you exhale, sigh it all out. The nose, keep your mouth closed. There's the sighing sound in the back of your throat. And you just sigh it all out, letting it all go. Notice at the bottom of the exhale that there's light. Just a sense of peace, lightheartedness. Sink into that. Smile. As the light has come, you're in the light. Enlightenment is yours because you simply decided that you want to learn it. And you're doing that right now. So breathe in again. Just getting into a nice, deep, slow, rhythmical breathing pattern in your own time. Pause at the top of the inhale. Imagine light is infusing every cell, every muscle of your body, every cell, every part of your mind. Hold the breath for as long as comfortable. Feel that light getting stronger and more intense. As you exhale, just sigh it all out and feel like that light is extending out through you to all the sonship, as Jesus called it. It's the extension of the mind of love, which is in everyone and everywhere. Pause at the bottom of the exhale. Connect with the light again. And shining brightly in your mind, in your heart, the one in your heart center that helps you. And then breathe in again. Breathe in the light. Intensify it. Smile at the top of the inhale. As you exhale, feel like you extending that light outwards. Share all the world, the entire universe, actually. Because we're talking about the domain of thought, which is beyond form. You can share everything, share the light, everyone, instantly. And this is to fulfill the will of God perfectly. Fulfill the will of God perfectly is the only joy and peace that can be fully known, because it is the only function that can be fully experienced. So just keep watching your breath, experiencing this light flowing in and flowing out, knowing that you are fulfilling the true function in this world, right here and now. When this is accomplished, then there is no other experience. So Jesus is leading us to one experience, light, total light, total love, total peace, total joy. This is enlightened experience. Yet the wish for other experience will block its accomplishment, because God's will, love's will, cannot be forced upon you. Being an experience of total willingness, you must be totally willing to experience only the light. The Holy Spirit understands how to teach us, but you do not. That is why you need Him, and why God, this eternal loving presence, gave Him to you. Only His teaching will release your will to God's, uniting it with His power and glory, and establishing them as yours. You share them as God shares them, because this is the natural outcome of their being. So just pause there, watch your breath. Let these profound words just seep in with the light into your awareness. You're being taught how to find the light. How to share all of your true thoughts. Give all to all is one of the instructions we had in the previous chapter. One of the keys to peace. Because the will of the Father and of the Son are one by their extension. Their extension is the result of their oneness, holding their unity together by extending their joint will. This is perfect creation by the perfectly created, in union, the perfect creator. The father must give fatherhood to his son, because his own fatherhood must be extended outward. You who belong in God, in this eternal loving presence, have the holy function of extending his fatherhood by placing no limits upon it. You're extending the source of your being, love itself, by not placing any limits upon it. There are no limits on love. Let the Holy Spirit teach you how to do this, for you can know what it means only of God himself. Only love itself can teach you how to extend love. Unlimited love, which is God, can teach you how to extend love in an unlimited way. So when you meet anyone, remember, it is a holy encounter. As you see him, you will see yourself. As you treat him, you will treat yourself. As you think of him, you will think of yourself. Never forget this, for in him you will find yourself or lose yourself. Whenever two sons of God meet, now given another chance at salvation, do not leave anyone without giving salvation to him, receiving it yourself. For I am always there with you, in remembrance of you. Just pause there, watch your breath. Just imagining you breathing light in to every pore, every cell of your body, intensifying, smile. And then as you exhale, you extend it outwards. This is talking about the importance of extending love. In the extension of it, we know it, come to know what it is. In every encounter, another person is a holy encounter if you choose for it to. And connect your own holiness, which is the same holiness as their holiness. Simply by changing your perception of everyone and everything. As Jesus says, as you see other people, you will see yourself. As you treat others, you will treat yourself. As you think of others, you will think of yourself. It's a restatement of the golden rule: do unto others as you have them do unto you. The reason you do that is because you want to experience love, peace, happiness. If you want to experience it, then you must give it to your brothers and sisters. The goal of the curriculum, regardless of the teacher you choose, is know thyself. This is the ancient injunction. Every spiritual teaching, every religion is born out of this desire to know ourselves. It's the inscription on the temple of the oracle of Delphi. Know thyself. There's nothing else to seek. Everyone else is looking for himself and for the power and glory he thinks he has lost. Whenever you are with anyone, you have another opportunity to find that your power and glory are in him, because they are yours. Ego tries to find them in yourself alone because it does not know where to look. The Holy Spirit teaches you that if you look only at yourself, you cannot find yourself because that is not what you are. Whenever you are with a brother, you are learning what you are because you are teaching what you are. You will respond either with pain or with joy, depending on which teacher you are following. You will be imprisoned or released according to your decision, and so will you. Never forget your responsibility to Him because it is your responsibility to yourself. Give Him His place in the kingdom, and you will have yours. Let's pause, reflect on all that. Let's seep into a deep level of your mind. How you treat others is how you're going to treat yourself. Because the kingdom cannot be found alone. And you who are the kingdom cannot find yourself alone. To achieve the goal of the curriculum, then, you cannot listen to the ego, whose purpose is to defeat its own goal. The ego does not know this because it does not know anything. But you can know it, and you will know it if you are willing to look at what the ego would make of you. This is your responsibility. Because once you've already looked at it, you will accept atonement or at-one-ment, as I prefer saying it. It describes the process of coming into awareness of oneness. You will accept it, atonement or at-one-ment for yourself. Once you've really looked at what the ego would make of you. What other choice could you make once you've done this? When you made this choice, you will understand why you once believed that when you met someone else, you thought he was someone else. In every holy encounter, which you enter fully, will teach you this is not so. Pause there, smile, keep watching the breath. Just shows us that holy encounter is always available. And choosing to make every encounter a holy encounter, you're choosing to wake up. You're choosing to accept the atonement, the one for yourself. So the Course emphasizes relationships as one of the key ways that you can return the mind to God, changing your perception of everyone and everything. You're restoring your own mind to an awareness of perfect oneness. You can encounter only part of yourself because you are part of God. You are part of this eternal loving presence. There is everything. His power and glory are everywhere. You cannot be excluded from them. The ego teaches that your strength is in you alone. The Holy Spirit teaches that all strength is in God. All strength is in love, and therefore in you. God or love wills no one suffer. He does not will anyone to suffer for a wrong decision, including you. That is why He has given you the means for undoing it. Through His power, glory, all your wrong decisions are undone completely.
releasing you and your brother from every imprisoning thought, any part of the sonship holds. Wrong decisions have no power because they are not true. Imprisonment they seem to produce is no more true than they are. So as you exhale, just have a sense of letting go of any sense that you imprison. That prison is of your own mind. It's not really about what the body's doing. In fact, many people have experienced spiritual awakening in prison because while the body's freedom is restricted, the mind has time to really contemplate, really reflect on what it needs to learn. And so many people have attained high states of consciousness in prison. Nelson Mandela being a prime example. Mahatma Gandhi also spent many years in prison. This is where they started to deepen into their spiritual practice, started to come to an awareness of who they really were, beyond the body, beyond their name, their form identity. Started to find power and the glory of life in them. So power and glory belong to God alone, belong to love alone, and so do you. God or love gives whatever belongs to Him, to itself, because He gives of Himself. The love gives of itself freely. And everything belongs to Him. Giving of yourself is the function He gave you. Fulfilling it perfectly will let you remember what you have of Him. Will let you remember love. And by this you will remember also what you are in Him. You cannot be powerless to do this, because this is your power. Glory is God's gift to you. A gift of His eternal loving presence. Glory is simply a state of mind in which you feel radiantly peaceful, happy, loving, joyful. Because that is what He is. That is what God is. All of those. See this glory everywhere to remember what you are. And so just sinking in a couple of minutes of silence to end the meditation into the glory that this section talks about. The deep peace, the fulfillment that you'll never find in the world. Love in your heart. Smile. And just step back and watch your breath. So allow the breath just to happen. The breath is going to breathe you. The next couple of minutes, there's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, and still surrender into the stillness of silence. Experience the glory of God, this eternal, infinite, loving presence in your mind. The light, you can imagine you breathing light in every pore of your body, every cell, every muscle, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the light. And the light and the love, peace and the joy fuse into a glory that is not of this world. So just sink into that, experience that glory. glory of who and what you really are for the next 2 minutes of deep silence. If you notice any thoughts arising, just notice them in a very calm, detached way. Imagine they're like clouds just drifting by, and their power to obscure the eternal sky, which is your true awareness, or the sun, which is the light source of that awareness. So just blow them all away, the wind of your breath, and sink back in for another minute into the glory of who and what you really are. And so gently just coming back on the count of 3, and your awareness back into your body, into the world. But you're going to maintain connection with this underlying glory, feeling the peace, love, joy that is always there, even while your mind is paying attention to the world, sights and sounds and so on. You can still be rooted in this glorious awareness. So on the count of 3, you open your eyes. 1, just breathing in. Notice how the stomach rises, the chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Subtle flow of life energy rising up the spine, clenched sphincter muscle. Smile at the top of the inhale. And just take a few moments to really connect with this glory. Feel the peace, love, joy. Imagine light infusing every pore, every cell of your body. Every part of your mind is in the glory of God, in the glory of love. Smile at that thought. Just anchor the state in the rest of the session and the rest of the day. Just by noticing it. You can use your breath and any of today's lessons, hand on your heart. Just to reconnect with this glory. Experience it whenever you need to. So it is said, so it is done. So exhale. Sigh it all out. Keep your mouth closed, let the air flow out of your nostrils. Make a sighing sound in the back of your throat. The energy subside back down the front channel of your body. Coming to rest in your lower stomach, your groin. Notice the peace in the stillness, the glory that opens up. The bottom of the exhale, the gap between breaths, smile. The two, just notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what else you're feeling and touching. There's a subtle flow of air on your skin, notice that. Notice any smells you breathe the air in. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth. Just noticing all these subtle sensations that you don't normally pay attention to bring your mind completely into the present moment. Now breathe in again. Just noticing what you're hearing, surrounding environment, just any sounds. But don't name them, judge them, or label them in any way. Just allow them to arise, subside. If it's a continuous sound, fountain going on outside, which you might be able to hear in the background. Just pay attention to the underlying stillness, the ground of being it's been called. Silence that underlies all sound, all sights, whatever's currently happening in this world. Silence is still the underlying true nature of everything. Smile as you consider that thought means that happiness, peace, love, and joy which come from this silence, from this stillness, are always available to you. Doesn't matter what the ego is made up to substitute for that reality. It's just a substitute. It's no real substitute. The glory of God is still within you. And so 3, just gently open your eyes. Take a minute just to look around, grounding yourself back fully into this so-called reality by noticing what you're seeing, but don't name it, don't judge it, don't label it, or interpret it in any way. Just allow your eyes to rest pretty randomly on whatever you see. And do a little bit of mind training today's workbook lessons for review. So look around very quietly, calmly. Say to yourself, I'm not the victim of the world I see. Because I've invented the world I see. It's all made up. The mind made up everything that you see, touch, taste, feel, perceive in this world. It's an invention of the mind. Because of this, there is another way of looking at the world. It allows you to see beyond the illusions, beyond the form of things, to be the truth. So remind yourself that I could see peace instead of whatever I now see. Meaning is not making you peaceful, and you can change your mind and say, I could see peace instead of this. The ego has tricked you into believing that the world is real, and therefore disturbing your peace is justified. So you must choose peace. You could see peace instead of this. There's a reminder that you have a choice in every situation. Finally say, as you breathe in on the time, my mind is part of God's. My mind is part of love's. I am very holy. Just feel that light, the peace arising in your mind and your heart. This is what holiness means. lightheartedness. It's a deep peace, contentment. You carry that with you into the rest of your day. For the rest of the session, you'll be experiencing the glory. Section of the text we read first, experiencing the glory of God, which is my wish for you. So stick around. It's the end of the meditation, but we're going to have a little discussion and an expression session to start with, which will hopefully lead us pretty smoothly into discussion. Given that it's Easter Sunday today, I thought to discuss the true meaning of crucifixion. First, let's do an expression session. So, Karen.
Hey, Jonah.
Yeah, still with us?
I am.
Put your video on. Yeah, what's arising? Anything you want to share?
Not just yet. Maybe you could go. You could maybe spark me on.
Okay, just coming out of the meditation.
Yeah.
What's arising for me? Oh, I watched a movie called Risen, which I recommended the last couple of days in the emails, and found it really inspiring. It's just really giving another perspective of crucifixion and resurrection story that happened 2,000 years ago, which is obviously what Easter celebrates. And just reminded me that there really is another way of looking, and that this is a very profound shift in consciousness. This is teaching that's going to take you out of the world entirely. This is really a demonstration that you don't have to believe in any of the ego's thoughts. So there's a great contrast in that movie between the world of the ego, just shown, it's pretty harsh, cruel, cold, people getting crucified, people dying. The Roman Empire, which was all about control and maintaining seeming law and order, but in a very oppressive way, with the collision of the Jewish authority, the rabbis, the priests, were very much part of that whole control system, and just how the ego tries to maintain that at all costs. It was quite interesting because they went on this body hunt. They had to find Jesus' body because he disappeared from the tomb, and Jewish leaders were going, well, this is extremely dangerous. We might have an uprising if people believe in this Messiah. So they had to find a body to prove that Jesus hadn't risen again. And then, so this Roman soldier's tasked with finding the body, and he's searching everywhere, and he can't believe it when he walks in and he sees Jesus. And he's alive and well, and he's talking to his disciples, and he just drops his sword. He's absolutely gobsmacked. And you can see just like, whoa, this is a paradigm shift for me. I don't understand how this is possible. Because he believed completely in a thought system based on death, really. And people just don't resurrect, they don't come back to life. And yet, he saw this with his own eyes. And so, this day is just a reminder that we can resurrect our minds. So life is eternal. And this thought system of death, ego is really just a death wish, can be completely undone. And I found that really inspiring. And that none of the control systems of the world, which are still very much in place, nothing much has changed. We still have, have controlling authorities who's trying to maintain law and order. We've seen that very, very overtly in the last year with COVID pandemic and all the restrictions and so on. Nothing's really changed. 2,000 years later, the world's still very much the same. We have some more advanced technology, but the underlying thought system of the ego is still there in the world, trying to convince us that it's true. And Jesus is still saying to us, no, it's simply not true. And his demonstration is as valid now as it was 2,000 years ago. And so that's the one thing, it's just like a sense of freedom and really feeling inspired that, this is absolutely the right way to go. And then a feeling of gratitude that actually we have this amazing teaching. It took 2,000 years, give or take a few years, for this to come into form, into a book called The Course in Miracles, which is now available freely to everyone to study. So in some ways, we're actually more fortunate than 2,000 years ago, than even the disciples were. Yes, they had some in-person demonstrations of the power of God, seeing by witnessing what Jesus did, but they didn't have this comprehensive teaching. So they went off, and he instructed them at the end of the movie to go off and teach the gospel, which they did. But their own egos and their own guilt and fear came in quite a big way, and that enormously influenced the teaching. And the church was then founded on the disciples' teaching, and a lot of that teaching became distorted. What Jesus really taught is not what then became formal Christianity, and that process took hundreds of years. So a lot of the original teachings were lost. But in the Course, we have these original teachings. We have it from Jesus directly. This was a direct transmission into Helen Schuckman's mind. She was the scribe. She just wrote down what she heard. So it's directly from this master teacher who attained full enlightenment. He did the journey. He escaped from time and space. Demonstrated that through the crucifixion and the resurrection. So I'm just very grateful to be learning from someone like that. Very, very clear language, very clear instructions and directions. He's not mincing his words at all in this course. And so I've just felt really, really happy and grateful over the last couple of days, even though Easter is about, in one way, it's about death, but the true meaning of the crucifixion is eternal life, is the resurrection. That was really, really what made the whole Easter event pretty inspiring and special time. So that's me.
That's pretty inspirational, Jono.
Oh, just sharing what's on my heart, how these things they do. The more you immerse yourself, I spend, as you know, a lot of time producing emails and doing all this content that I'm learning at the same time. It's all going in and teach what you need to learn, as he emphasizes. So anyway, it's your chance to express whatever's on your mind.
No, it was not really so much what's on my mind. That was more just a comment of, I actually, when I woke up this morning, first thing I did was read the inspirational quote, which was quite long, from Eckhart Tolle. And I'm typically not very an Easter-y kind of celebration. I mean, actually, Bruce and I don't even put Christmas decorations out or do presents, and Easter has not really had much meaning for me. And when I read this, I actually started thinking about it, and thereafter I did the meditation, which was obviously the lesson combined with the breathing. So when I did the breathing session this afternoon, it was like breathing without having a lesson was also very rewarding, because you don't always need to be listening to a lesson when you're breathing, and you don't always need to be breathing like that when you're listening to a lesson. So, and what you said about the 2,000 years and being grateful for being here, you know, I thought I was beating myself up about having the book for 15 years before I actually got into it. But to be honest, I wouldn't have got it. I just simply would not have understood it. And I understand a small, tiny, teeny percentage of it now. And I know that it's there for me. So I'm very proud to say I have now covered in my perfectionistic way. I think it was, I said to Bruce yesterday, I think it's the first time probably in 20 years I've actually used contact paper to cover a book, and it's a mission because the non-hardcover version is quite thick and it's quite soft, and I had to get it perfect because this is what we're dealing with, not perfectionism. It's about doing the things in the right way. You know, if you're going to do it full on. And I got it right. So I'm very proud about that. And yeah, I think there's an old saying, and it's cleanliness is next to godliness. And I also think, you know, neatness, and it's not like I'm OCD. Some people would argue with that, but I like things to be neat and proper. And yeah, you know, there's quite a good structure that I'm building now with the lessons and the meditations, and I don't get to all of them every day, but when I do implement the one in the morning, I understand further on in the day what's going on. And like I said to you yesterday was a very tough day for me. My expression session today would have probably been a lot different if I hadn't applied yesterday's lessons throughout the day and the afternoon. So yeah, thank you to you and to everyone else out there who's part of my journey. That's me.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. It's really about it's about making this into your own personal experience, isn't it? So it's taking the teachings and the tools and the techniques and just weaving it into your life in a way that really does transform your life, that really does make a difference. And you know it makes a difference. You can see moment by moment, you know, how, you know, especially in the difficult situations. So we kind of had an expression session yesterday about the difficulties yesterday. So we were to go into that. But when you do get tested and you do get challenged like that, that's when you really notice the power of these teachings, don't you? Because you then go, well, wow, actually, you know, if I didn't have this, I'd probably be getting very upset, very angry. You know, my whole day would really be a very unpleasant experience. So yes, I'm being challenged a bit. The ego will always try. You know, when stuff happens, people aren't necessarily behaving the way you want them to. They're being attacking or nasty. But that's really the test of, you know, how well have you learned these teachings? How well can you apply them in practice when the chips are down, when it's difficult? And so you actually need those situations to advance in your learning. You need to be tested. It's like anything else in life, you know. If you're not going to train properly and really immerse yourself in something, then when the chips are down, you're not going to be able to cope. That's why, to use a military analogy, you know, they train the soldiers in training. They make the training really hard and really unpleasant because they're training them for combat. So that when they go into combat, they're like, yeah, actually, I'm used to this, and actually, the training was harder, so I can cope with this. Whereas if the training is all nice and easy and, you know, it's an easy ride, then when the chips are down, you're not going to apply it. So the same way here, you practice diligently, and you talked about, you know, doing things well.
And there's a thoroughness to it. I understand exactly what you mean. It's not that you're OCD, that you have to be perfectionistic, but it's like you want to be thorough in what you're doing. And so there's a discipline in the mind that starts to come in. In the Eastern teachings, the yogic tradition, yama and niyama are the first two limbs of yoga. And those are really practices or observances where you are letting go of things that don't serve you, unclean habits. So it's about, just clean living, not polluting your body with substances, not drinking, smoking, how you're speaking, cleanliness of body. And the reason those are in there is because they understood, these yogis, that if that was all over the shop, if you had like no discipline just in your personal hygiene, your personal routines, you just wouldn't be able to advance to higher levels of consciousness. So that was like a foundation. I talked about that earlier with the breathing, pranayama. It's a foundational practice. If you didn't get these foundations in place, then you couldn't really advance further. There's a great quote, which I can't remember exactly, but I'll sort of quote it, paraphrase it. It's like if you can't get the basics of life in place, like breathing and diet and sleeping and so on, you can't get all of that right, then access to this sort of transcendent dimension of consciousness beyond time and space will forever elude you. And it sort of makes sense, because if you can't even get basics right, your life's kind of a mess, and there's no discipline, there's no structure. You're really operating at a pretty lower level, and you'll be rooted into the ego's thinking. And so the start of upgrading yourself, of the spiritual transformation in the yoga tradition is yama and niyama, and then pranayama. It's like, okay, so you're going to have some discipline about the structures, about the way you're living your life, your personal habits, how you treat others. That was really emphasized in today's reading. All of these things are important foundations for then going deeper into meditation and accessing these higher states of awareness, which are then the sort of fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth aspects of yoga are more going within. It's pratyahara, withdrawing senses from the world. So you start to do that in meditation, and just immersing yourself. Focused attention was the sixth one. It's focusing on a single thing. So like just focusing on your attention on listening to the lesson, focusing your attention on the breathing, brings your mind into a focused attention, which then leads to a deeper sense of contemplation. Just really immersing yourself very deeply into a higher state of being, which Jesus calls the glory of God. It's really experiencing that. And then finally, the eighth limb is samadhi, which is just a state of enlightenment, of feeling at peace with the world, and seeing everything the same, seeing that this presence of love is in everything, and that actually there are no distinctions, there really is no separation. That presence of love is in everything. God is in everything I see, because God is in my mind. It's one of our review lessons from yesterday. And these lessons just emphasize that over and over. Like just how you're seeing, see God in everything, see love in everything. That's what this teaching is about. So you are, by doing this program, the Art of Letting Go program, did the course to start with, that was just the leader. You're actually integrating all of these pretty ancient spiritual teachings and practices into a program that works for you. And it does work, doesn't it? You're just seeing that like all these things start to come together to really slowly but surely transform your mind, transform your life. And
I'll just add something there, Jono. All of them seem to fall apart before they start coming together. Some of them still feel like they're falling apart.
Yeah. So that is, and that's where the difficulty in transformation comes, which leads us nicely into what I wanted to discuss, which is, what's the true meaning of the crucifixion? Yeah.
Sorry, just before that, before I forget, I was just making notes on the pranayama, and I mean, when you started explaining the one breath, Bruce actually piped up, oh, that's the Ujjayi breath, because we've done some art of living courses before. And he did the sadhana for quite a while, but I missed some of the spellings. Do you have any of that in a summary that you could just maybe send to me on WhatsApp? Or
yeah, sure. I'll stick it in the text. Ujjayi. It's
yeah, the Ujjayi, but then I missed I was writing them down, and then I missed the explanation on Namayiga.
Niyama.
That one, you see.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you Google yoga and you just find it on, you'll see there's 8 limbs of yoga.
Okay.
It's niyama.
Oh, there you go.
One, and then yama. So you got yama, niyama. Those are the first 2. Pranayama.
Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama.
Yama is like a control or a discipline of the mind. So pranayama means breath control. Also means energy. Prana is energy. So it's breath control. It's energy control. It's mind control. It leads you in. These are foundational steps. You can get these things right. They are foundations on which you can then advance in awareness, and you can start going deeper into meditation. So the first 4 is asana. So the first 4, yama, niyama, pranayama, and asana, were the foundational practices of yoga. So okay, get those things right, and then you're preparing yourself for meditation, for a deeper connection. Yoga means union. It means union with source, union with your own self, and you experience that most deeply in meditation. So these are all foundational practices prepare you for meditation, which then have these following elements. So pratyahara. Pratyahara is withdrawal of the senses into.
Yeah.
So you're going within. You're going, okay, I'm just like, you close your eyes, for instance, you focus on your breathing. You practicing pratyahara when you do that automatically by withdrawing the senses. You go within and you just start to connect with this inner self. There's an awareness within you that's now not reliant on your external senses. So the yogis understood that you need to start doing this in order to start paying attention to this inner awareness. You need to actually withdraw awareness from the outside world, from the physical senses. And so breathing is a part of that. And meditation then just takes you deeper into that. So there's dharana, which is the next stage. So that's focused attention. Dharana is just focusing typically on one thing. So this is what really a mantra is. When you just focus your attention on one thing, like the breath, for instance, which is the Buddhist way of doing it. It's just a mantra. You by focusing on the breath, you withdraw the senses from everything else. Your mind starts to come into single-pointed awareness. It's just the breath. And what that does is it opens you up to now experience something deeper. And that's the next stage, which is dhyana, they call it. These are the Sanskrit terms. But dhyana is really just a state of really deep meditation. When you're going deeply into, you're still aware, but you're really in the presence of love. You're starting to really feel that. It's a deep contemplation, going beyond words, beyond even mantras. You don't really need mantras in dhyana. You're just in the presence of love, and you're experiencing that. So you're starting to get a deeper experience of what Jesus talked about, the glory of God. Well, what does that mean? That's an experience of peace, of love. As Bruce said, the experience speaks for itself. So yoga is very much an experiential practice designed to teach you the truth through your own experience, that you come into knowledge, know thyself, as Jesus says, through experience. It's not something that's theoretical. We know from religious teachings that if you just get rooted in dogma, this is the dogma, and it's just purely on the conceptual, intellectual belief level, you're not really going to get it. In fact, that was why Jesus was so threatening 2,000 years ago, because he really got it. He really experienced God, and the authority, the Jewish teachers and so on, didn't. It was all in their minds. They had all this intellectual understanding. They'd studied the Torah, and they knew the laws of Moses, but it was all very cluttered by the mind. And so he came along and said, no, this is actually really not the way. You're not going to get to God through this very kind of rigid, dogmatic, traditional religion, which is the Jewish religion. There's another way. It's direct experience. They found that very, very threatening, which is ultimately why he got crucified. He threatened the whole control system of the ego, which doesn't want you to go into a direct experience of God. That's the last thing it wants you to do. And it's going to do everything it possibly can to prevent that. It does not want you to attain, which is the final stage, final limb of yoga, samadhi. And samadhi is just this experience of being connected to the love of God, connected to this eternal loving presence, and it's coming through you, and you are seeing everything in this through this loving presence. That was the state that Jesus attained, where he just saw love, even in a very harsh. And you think our world is harsh. That was a very harsh, brutal world. It was very oppressive, very controlling. There was, people got crucified. There was no real legal system as we know it. You just, if you did the wrong thing, they just crucified you and or just killed you. That movie Risen started with this Roman soldier and his underlings putting down a rebellion. They went out to crush the Jewish rebellion. There were all these rebels who were going, we don't want Roman oppression, and Barabbas is the leader. That shows that scene. But just how deluded they were. Barabbas thought that the Messiah would come and free them on the physical level, that the Messiah would come and somehow free the Jewish people and throw off the yoke of Roman oppression, and that he would be some kind of military leader. And that really wasn't the case at all. Jesus was just saying none of this really matters. The kingdom that I'm going to talk about is not of this world. And he was talking about transcending it entirely. And his life demonstrated that. The crucifixion and the resurrection that happened at the end of his life was really just a demonstration of what he taught during his ministry, acted out in the so-called physical real world. So people could see, his disciples especially, could really see, look, this is true. What I've taught you is true. There is eternal life. They thought they could kill me. I seem to be crucified. I seem to die, but I've come back into physical form for a time just to show you. He only did that for a month or two, just to show them, look, this is eternal life is true. You can't really die. Your mind is eternal, and by that demonstration, the resurrection, they really believed. I think if he hadn't done that, his teaching probably wouldn't have spread as it did, and Christianity, as we know it, wouldn't have come into being. So it was necessary, and so it was just a teaching device. The true meaning of the crucifixion is really, it was a teaching device, to an extreme example, to show people, to show his disciples, and then to show the world. But even in these extreme situations where people are seemingly attacking you, they're doing this horrible stuff to your body. They, putting you, crucifixion is probably one of the worst kinds of deaths you can have physically, because you literally suffocate in your own body fluids. And it's a very slow, agonizing process. But even in that extreme situation, you don't have to believe in the ego's thought system, the attack and death. And he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Even when people are attacking you, in most cases, in today's world, you're not going to be attacked on that level. You're going to be attacked mentally and emotionally. So people use words and actions, but not necessarily trying to hurt you physically to attack you. Well, if Jesus could forgive under those extreme circumstances and let it all go and transcend anyway, then so can you. So he was just giving you an extreme example, saying, well, look, if I can do it, then so can you. And the less extreme temptation to misperceive. You can also hold to this truth that you are the Son of God. You're still connected to love. You're still love. And none of this really matters. None of this can actually affect your true being in any way. And that's really the only message of the crucifixion was none of this matters. Crucifixion, the anger, the attack, the fear, all of this really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the eternal life, the eternal loving presence, which we call God. That's always there underneath all of those thoughts and those emotions. That's always available for you. And the resurrection was really the resurrection of the mind into that awareness. He demonstrated it physically, but it's the resurrection into a higher state of awareness that transcended fear and doubt and guilt and anger and attack, all these lower thoughts and emotions. But you need to demonstrate that in order to experience that resurrection, you need to go through the crucifixion as well. So it was just an example of how transformation really works. You often need to go through this, feeling like things are falling apart, feeling attacked, feeling like your body's been crucified, feeling like you're losing your life, in order to transcend, in order to transform and resurrect your mind. So you mentioned, sometimes it can feel like things are falling apart, and that is inevitable in transformation because your old thought system has to go. The ego has to fall apart, and often the structures that it's built, which is how it's reflected in your life, seem to be falling apart. But that's all good. The body, the physical body, isn't really important at all. It's just a learning device for the mind. So, any questions about that?
No, very good, thank you.
Okay. So to really make the most of the crucifixion, resurrection, and keep this lesson with you, just remember, whenever the going gets tough, whenever stuff's happening that's not nice, you can actually go back to remind yourself of what Jesus went through and the principles behind it, and say, okay, well, this is just the crucifixion. Okay, someone's trying to attack me, or someone's being nasty, or maybe I'm thinking fearful, attacking thoughts. It's just the crucifixion. The ego wants to crucify you, right? It's a thought system based on death and attack. But by remembering what the meaning of the crucifixion is, you can just shift yourself out and go, okay, but I don't need to do this. Right? The crucifixion isn't really true. None of this is true. The only truth is that I'm still one with God. I'm still one with this loving presence. There's eternal life is still in me, and that's accessible right now. I can let this go and restore my mind into a state of oneness. And so every time you do a little letting go process, you are actually reenacting the crucifixion and the resurrection, aren't you? So just remember that. So a little breath break. You go, right, I'm gonna remind myself, bring up whatever's troubling me, whatever's negative. Notice it. That's the crucifixion stage. Okay, so there's some suffering there, but I become aware of it, and then you let it go. With the help of the breath, just let it go. You drop the thoughts, you drop the emotions, and you find a state of peace and love. And that can happen in a few seconds, a minute or two. And you've just done a little miniature version of the crucifixion resurrection. And if you keep doing that, you keep cycling through that, at some point, there's no need for crucifixion anymore. Like, there's no need to suffer anymore. think Eckhart Tolle, another great quote from it. Well, suffering is necessary until you realize it's unnecessary. Until you go, okay, I don't need to crucify myself anymore. And whatever anyone else is doing, remember, you're always crucifying yourself. Because if someone else is attacking you, it's your own response to that, your own reaction to that. That is the crucifixion. Or they attack you, they say something bad, they say, oh, you're no good, or you're worthless, or whatever people do, a put down. And then if you believe that and you take that to heart and you dwell on those thoughts and you allow those thoughts and those emotions in, then you are crucifying yourself because you're believing those thoughts. You don't have to believe them. What someone else says is really irrelevant. It's what you believe. And so there's the freedom of the mind. Well, you don't have to believe this at all. You just go, well, okay, it's just more crucifixion. And it's also useful to remember not to take it personally, right? So instead of going, oh, someone's personally attacking me, because that now puts you in the persona of the ego, the separate self that wants you to feel limited and wants you to feel attacked. You just go, this is just the ego, right? However this is manifesting. People are just projections of the ego. The ego made up the whole show. It made up the bodies. It made up the personalities. So it's using these people. If they're unconscious, they're in the ego's thought system. The ego's thought system is just manifesting through them. But it's only one thought system. However that's playing out. They're no real individual people. It's just the mind, the ego. It's either the ego or the Holy Spirit. So if someone is projecting or manifesting the ego to you, you have a choice to see it differently, to let it go, and say, I don't have to buy into this. I don't have to accept that as true. And that was really Jesus's master teaching in the crucifixion resurrection time. He simply said, I don't have to accept, I don't have to believe that I'm being attacked, even while my body is being crucified. I mean, what a lesson. I don't have to accept this thought system of attack and fear and death, even while this, apparently horrific thing is being done to my body, because it's still not true. And, hence he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, which is, translated, it's just, well, let this go and go back to the source. Bring your mind back into the source, awareness of the source, because none of these beliefs are true. And you don't want to believe these things, because then you're crucifying yourself. And this is the ego's program. It's just a continuous crucifixion of ourselves, ultimately leading to death. That's what it wants you to do. And Jesus just pointed another way. He said, no, you don't have to do this. You can resurrect, even in the most extreme circumstances. Even if your life is really hard and really tough, you can find a peace, and you can find glory even in that. So the glory of the resurrection is preceded by the real horror of the crucifixion. So it's a wonderful teaching device, really, and that's all it is. It's not meant to stimulate more guilt, more fear. And traditional Christians often interpret the crucifixion very fearfully. It's like, well, God punished his only son, and he had to die for our sins because we're all such evil sinners. Some kind of sacrifice is required. So Jesus was some kind of lamb that was sacrificed for our sins, and then that took away our sins. But there had to be death in order to remove sin. And Jesus is saying that's all nonsense. It's absolute rubbish. That's just more ego. This was just really a demonstration that you don't need to be crucified. You don't need to crucify yourself anymore. Eternal life and love and peace and joy are given you, even in the most extreme circumstances, which is a much more inspiring interpretation of it than, well, Jesus had to die on the cross for our sins, and that just makes the whole idea of sin and guilt and sacrifice real, and it often makes people more fearful, because they're like, well, if God could do that to his own son, then God help me, what's going to happen to me? And the Christians try and lighten that by saying, well, okay, it's, Jesus died for your sins, so you don't have to experience that. But there's still this tremendous sense of guilt and fear and punishment and death and sacrifice. And I think in traditional Christianity, they focus way too much on that. And they focus more on the crucifixion, on the resurrection. So the whole point of it was the resurrection. It's like, no, there's joy and there's happiness and there's life. And none of that really mattered. The anger and the attack and the death, and none of that mattered at all. It was just completely transcendent. Jesus demonstrated that. And, he came back and he wasn't in pain. He wasn't suffering. He just was like, okay, it was just nothing. Didn't have a whole drama in his mind to let go. Oh my God, I've been crucified. This is terrible. He just let it all go, and he was happy, which is what that movie really showed. So the centurion comes in and he's looking at Jesus and he's just happy and he's smiling and laughing and he's just totally gobsmacked. His whole foot system is just rocked. He drops the sword he's carrying. It's just symbolic of just dropping that, that it's a weapon of attack and defense, just dropping that. And he just sits down, he kind of slumps down and he's just like looking at Jesus and the disciple and going like, I just can't make any sense of this. Because his whole thought system had been rocked completely when he saw Jesus alive. So there was a demonstration of just another thought system. The Holy Spirit's thought system and transcends the ego. It's way more powerful. In the flesh, in the physical, he came back into life, back into the body for a short time, just to show people that this is possible and that what he is teaching is true, and that it actually has very tangible, practical, miraculous results. So I hope that clarifies the meaning of the crucifixion and the resurrection. And I guess that brings us to the end of the session, unless you've got any more questions. Any comments or questions?
No, absolutely brilliant. I've made my notes like a good girl.
Yeah. Please send me some photographs of.
I know. I've been meaning to do that the whole day. I've just been on my feet doing things that I wouldn't normally do, cleaning the car, vacuuming. But you know what? I'm doing God's work.
Yeah. Well, you're looking. It's if you're doing that kind of thing, you're doing it in the Spirit, or inspired by the Holy Spirit. Then it is God's work, and it's part of this process of coming to enlightenment. Everything you do then becomes okay. I'm just everything is sacred, everything is holy, because I'm bringing my holiness, this enlightened state, into whatever I do, and the experience of that is beyond what you can really teach. You have to experience it for yourself. What I can teach, what any spiritual teacher can teach, is just, okay, here's some tools, here's some techniques, here's some ways to experience this yourself, but you've got to go and apply them and practice them yourself to have the experience. So it's absolutely experiential, which is why I brought in other modalities and teachings like yoga, because it's very experiential. You're not actually experiencing this. You can talk about the glory of God all you like. It's just an idea. It's a concept in the mind. It's the actual experience of then you're like, okay, I'm starting to get what Jesus is talking about here. It's an experience of love and peace and joy and happiness and freedom, and wow, like I'm just high on life. Why wouldn't I want more of this? Why wouldn't I want this all the time, 24/7? And you can have it. It does take discipline. It takes discipline. It takes practice. The ego is going to come in and it's going to try and pull you out of that and try and get you to go back into the thought system of fear and anger and so on. And that's why you just need to be vigilant, and why these practices on a daily basis are necessary. so that you can stay in that flow. And the reward is, okay, I have some discipline, I practice these things, but my reward is I feel so much happier, so much more peaceful, so much more loving, so much more joyful than I would otherwise. Like, why wouldn't I want to put in a little bit of effort to experience those things? It's the best, investment of your time possible. So keep doing it, and keep resurrecting every day. Every day is your resurrection. Just remember that. It's not one day. It's every day, every moment that you're accessing this higher state. You're accessing source. It's coming through you. You're resurrecting yourself from the ego's thought system of death and disaster to love and light and peace. So let's just close it off maybe with a little few minutes just of gratitude. A prayer of gratitude is always a nice way to finish. So just closing your eyes, taking a nice deep breath in, put one hand in your heart center, just breathe the light. Imagine you moving beautiful golden or white light into your stomach, into your heart center, into every pore, every cell of your body. Feel like that light is rising up the spine. Smile. Just connect with this glory Jesus talks about. Glory of God. Peace, love, joy, happiness, contentment, fulfillment. Just breathe that all in to every cell of your body, every part of your mind. You're in the light. This is what it means to be enlightened. In the light, experiencing love, peace, joy, happiness. You smile. And just anchor the state in through your smile, through the breath, through the hand on your heart. These are all little anchors that you can use to bring yourself back very quickly, just in a 30-second or minute breath break. Just bring yourself back into this enlightened state. Breathe it all in, embrace it. And just to put the cherry on the top or the icing on the cake, just feel gratitude. Gratitude for this teaching, just come down to us from a master. 2,000 years later, we're still studying his teaching. In fact, probably studying it more deeply than anyone has in the centuries in between his death and his resurrection. And today, so just feel very grateful that we have this amazing teaching. And we have these tools like Zoom and WhatsApp and all that communication technology, which allows us to communicate truly with each other, to really share the love, share the light, which is the holy encounter. So just give thanks for that holy encounter today in the session. It's just the sharing of the light and the love. You feel filled up with it, you feel fulfilled with it, and you're in a position to share it with others. As today's section taught, this is the way that you have it. This is the way you really learn it, just to go out and share it with others, share the light, share the love. So as you exhale, just have a sense of extending that light and that love outwards to all your family, your friends, acquaintances, everyone you know. Just blessing them with the light and the love that you're experiencing right now. And then sharing it with everyone. So that's the entire human race. 8 billion people or so on the planet. And don't stop there. This is all life. All the animals, the plants, anything that has sentience, that has some kind of consciousness, is ultimately from the source. So the light is in them too. And so you just share it, let it radiate out from you to all life, not just in this world, but in the cosmos, the entire universe. And so in a moment, you're the light of the universe. Feel that coming through you, streaming through your mind, extending outwards. And this is how you come to know that you are the light. Say to yourself, I am the light of the world. I am the light of the universe. Just as Jesus was, so I am. Because we are one. Smile at that thought. Anchor this state of love and light and gratitude in the rest of the afternoon and evening. And on into your week ahead. So it is said, so it is done. And then you gently open your eyes. Take another nice deep breath in and just feel full up with the spirit of light and love and joy. And carry that with you for the rest of the day, the rest of the Easter weekend, and on into your week. So thank you for joining. And I bid you farewell now. Namaste, which means the divine love, peace, and joy, the light, the glory in me. Acknowledge and honor that same glorious presence of love, light, peace, and joy in you.